The first on my list would be Nathaniel Hamby. Mr. Hamby, good morning. Mr. Hamby, you're here for first appearance accused of one count of no valid driver's license. I saw you this weekend, set you a bond. Your fiance is in the courtroom, Mr. Hamby. This morning, I went over your paperwork. A tentative offer was made to resolve this matter. We'll see where that goes. I'm appointing the public defender's office again to represent you for first appearance purposes. So listen to Mr. McDaniel, please.
Your Honor, I spoke to Mr. Hamby. At this point in time, he's going to plead of no contest to the charge as listed. The understanding, he'll be sentenced to 10 days in the county jail. There'll be a $400 fine. He has 3 days jail credit, and I'm not sure if the court's withholding adjudication or adjudicating.
He's got a pretty long criminal history, so he'll be adjudicated guilty of the criminal traffic offense if he wants to do this. Mr. Gill, is that agreeable with the state?
It is, Your Honor.
Mr. Hamby, did you hear that agreement, sir?
Yes, sir.
Any questions about the agreement, Mr. Hamby?
No, sir.
And Mr. Hamby, is that the plea you would like to enter just to resolve this case?
Yes, sir, it is.
Mr. Hamby, when I considered probation offer, but the primary reason I didn't go for that is your pretrial release sheet says that you don't have a job. Now, if that's not accurate, I need to know that. But it says
Yes,
you
sir,
don't
I
have
do
a
have
job.
a job. Yes, sir, I do have a job. I work
Did
with
you
my
tell the
granddad.
people? Did you tell the people at the jail you didn't have a job?
I know, sir. They had a bunch of things messed up. They had my date of birth messed up and everything. But I
You
have
work
worked
for
with my
your
granddaddy.
granddaddy?
Yes,
What do
sir.
you do for your granddaddy?
He's a mechanic.
So he has a business?
Yes, sir.
What's the name of the
works for-
business?
It's called Wayne's Automotive, and he works for Rick Van Landingham in Greensboro at the packing house. We service all their forklifts, all their heavy
You-
equipment.
You work full-time over there?
Yes, sir. I work with him every day.
So if we call them and verify that, you can verify that you have a job, is that right?
Yes, sir.
If you were offered probation versus the few days you have left on this jail offer, would you rather be considered for probation if we verify?
Well, I'm
it,
the
or
only one
would you
providing
rather
for the
just-
family
Let
right
me
now.
finish the question. Let me finish the question. Or
Yes, sir.
would you rather take the 10 days, get credit for what you've done and be done with it?
Hang on.
I want to take the probation if I can. I would like to take the probation, Your Honor, if I can, just because I'm the only one providing.
Okay, how can we verify your employment? Who can we call?
My wife is in there. She can give you my granddaddy's phone number, his cell phone number.
Okay, ma'am, do you have that? Mr. Hamby, have a seat and we'll see you in just a few minutes, okay?
Yes, sir.
So the other person that has friends or family here was Mr. Garvin, Johnny Garvin. And Sissy, if you need to talk to them, Sissy, Miss Toole, if you need to talk to them in the jury room, feel free to use the jury room. Nobody's using it. That's okay. I just know that he needs to talk to somebody about a PTI, get his questions answered. Mr. Garvin, good morning. Mr. Garvin, you're here for first appearance. You're accused of 4 charges. You have two old check cases. They're 09732 MM, 09733 MM. Those are warrant cases that looks like whoever put it in the system got the name spelled wrong. They have Gravin instead of Garvin. They have Graven. The social security number is the same. The driver's license number is the same. In addition, those 2 old warrants, you have a new charge of aggravated assault. The officer that did the complaint, Mr. McDaniel and Mr. Gill, in one place said ag assault with intent to kill. One place said ag assault without intent to kill. The statute says without. I don't know where with intent to kill comes from. That's not part of ag assault. And the front page of the complaint says without intent, which matches the statute. So it's aggravated assault without intent to kill. It's a 3rd-degree felony. You also have a battery. So, Mr. Garvin, I've read the complaint in those 2 cases. There is probable cause for the new charges. I'm going to listen to Mr. McDaniel and Mr. Gill before I address your bond status. Mr. McDaniel?
Your Honor, on the driver's license cases, we'd ask the court to consider either dismissing them or giving an ROR. I mean, he lives at it's the same address that he lives at right now. He lived at back in 2008. when these checks were written. It's 15, they're over, I think the checks are around 15 years old, well beyond all the statute of limitations. So we'd ask the court to consider go ahead and just dismissing those cases or giving an ROR. The other cases, Your Honor, we'd ask for some kind of cash bond, Your Honor. I mean, he's local. He's obviously, he's got some medical issues. He's got a trachea in his throat. He can't speak. He has a lot of medical issues, and we would just ask for maybe a cash bond, let him post that cash bond, and he's agreed that he's not going to have any contact with the alleged victim in the case.
Mr. Gill?
Judge, we're just asking for a reasonable bond, that there be no contact with the alleged victim, and that he not possess a firearm while out on bond in this case.
Mr. Garvin, I don't know if I told you, but your sister, your friend, Mr. Johnson, and your ex-wife are all in the courtroom, Mr. Garvin, on your behalf. So, Mr. Garvin, what I'm going to do is this: the check cases are very old, and I agree with Mr. McDaniel's analysis. I don't know if the state's going to be able to go forward with these checks or not. I have no idea. They're too small checks. The information provided to the state attorney's office by the store where the checks were supposedly cashed was very minimal. It didn't have a date of birth or anything. So I have no idea if the state will be able to prosecute that or not. We'll see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a release on the two check cases, 09-732 and 09-733. I'm just going to give you a release on your own recognizance. I'm going to give you a court date in those cases for when, Dawn? July 31st at 9 a.m. In the other cases, because of the allegations of a firearm, there is probable cause, but there's not a whole lot more than probable cause. It's a pretty bare bones affidavit. In those cases, I'm going to let you, I'm going to set you a bond. Mr. Gill, is the state opposed to the cash bond that's been requested?
No, Your Honor, we don't object to that.
Okay. What I'm going to do is set you a total bond of $500 on the felony charge, $250 on the misdemeanor. That means your total cash bond, Mr. Garvin, is $750. Your bond has a condition of absolutely no contact with the alleged victim. Miss Williams, no contact with Miss Williams. And Mr. Garvin, you cannot possess a firearm while this charge is pending. So, Mr. Garvin, it's a firearm-related charge. So, on a temporary basis, I don't need you to have access to firearms so we can get this thing figured out. Mr. Garvin, so it's $750 cash, no contact with the alleged victim. I'm going to see if you've got transportation set up. So, well, actually, I won't be able to do that. So as soon as he posts that cash bond, or if you post it for him, he'll be released immediately. Now, the good thing about a cash bond is this, is that if you give if I'd set him a $7,500 bond and he gave $750 to a bondsman, it's gone. It's spent. That's the bondsman's fee for vouching for his appearance. The reason his attorneys ask for a cash bond most likely is if you post a cash bond, it still costs you the same amount, $750, but that money is held by the clerk of court until the case is over. If the case is dismissed, the money is returned to whoever posted the bond. If the case is not dismissed, then under Florida law, if there's court costs and fines assessed, it goes towards court costs and fines. So that's why a cash bond sometimes is preferable to a surety bond. That's why he's requesting a cash bond. So $750 cash, it's held by the clerk until you see how the case gets resolved. As soon as that cash bond is posted, he'll be able to be released. Does the friends or family in the courtroom have any questions? No questions? All right. Mr. Garvin, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
All right, Mr. Garvin. Mr. McDaniel, anything else in this case?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Garvin, your friends or family are going to try to post that bond and get you out of there, sir.
All right, thank you.
Who? Okay, so let's go back to Mr. Hamby, Nathaniel Hamby. Mr. Goodson has spoken to his granddaddy. So, Mr. Hamby, let's see what Mr. Goodson learned when he made that phone call. Mr. Goodson.
Judd, I asked his fiance to call his grandfather where he would answer the phone. I spoke to Mr. Wayne Hamby, who is the grandfather of Nathaniel Hamby. He says Mr. Nathaniel Hamby does work for him approximately 30 to 32 hours a week. They do mechanic work and they do service the work for Mr. Van Landingham, whatever they do mechanic wise over there. So he makes $10 an hour, but he said he is employed and he would be employed. So
He said he worked full time, but maybe his definition of full time is different than mine. Mr. Gill, I was on the fence on probation offer, suggested tentative probation offer versus a short jail sentence off the jail sentence primarily because of a lack of employment. I'm going to defer to the state. What you want to do with the case, Mr. Gill?
Judge, I don't have his criminal history pulled up or in front of me. Is there, I can just review that? Is there?
He has some criminal history. Most of it is older. He got probation 2 years ago but he completed probation. That's what kind of made me think maybe he could do it again. He did successfully complete probation. Mr. Hamby, what was that charge he completed probation on a couple of years ago?
It was domestic, I think, Your Honor.
It was a what charge?
Domestic battery or
So
violence.
he completed probation, so I know that he can do it. Like I said, the job was the primary reason he wasn't offered probation today.
Yeah, his criminal history looks fairly, I mean, relatively dated in the sense that it looks like, well, because we'll defer the court. We have no objection to a probation.
Mr. Hamby, we'll give you a shot at probation. You need to think about this, to understand it, because I know Mr. McDaniel's already talked to you about this, but if you take the 10 days, he has how many days left, Mr. McDaniel?
Probably 6 days left, maybe 5.
6, could be 5, and you're done. If you take the probation and you violate probation, there's a good chance I'm going to give you more than 10 days, depending on how you violate. If you take the probation and make it, then you don't go back to jail, Mr. Hamby. So you're the only person here who controls whether or not you can make probation or not. So do you want to take the jail sentence and be done with this and be out in 5 or 6 days and move on with your life? Or do you want to be under probation for 6 months?
I'll do the probation, Your Honor.
Listen to Mr. McDaniel then.
Your Honor, yeah, we're gonna still go ahead and admit to the case. Go ahead and enter plea of no contest. Understanding he'll be placed on 6 months probation, $400 fine that he has to have that paid within 6 months. He can early terminate after 3 months if he gets everything done and completed. Part of the probation is that he's to get a valid license if he can get one. If he gets a valid license, the fine will be $300 if he gets it done within the first 60 days.
All right. And Mr. Hamby, is that agreeable with the state? Do you have any questions about that? Is that what you want to do? It's a lot
Yes,
of
sir.
3 questions in one. Let me redo that. Mr. Hamby, is that what you want to do?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Gill, is that agreeable with the state?
With the adjudication of guilt, it is, Your Honor.
Mr. Hamby, I'm going to accept your plea of no contest, the charge of no valid driver's license, adjudicate you guilty.
Oh, I guess you can.
You're asking for adjudicate guilty. Is that right, Mr. Gill, to get the probation?
Yes, Your Honor. That was part of the jail sentence too, but
6 months probation, $400 court costs and fines, obtain a valid driver's license if one is reasonably available to you. Possible early termination of probation, and every case has a condition that you not be charged with a new crime. In your case, that would be don't drive unless you have a valid driver's license, because that would be a new crime. So, Mr. Hamby, you can't be driving unless you get your license fixed. You get everything done early, you may get off at 3 months, not to do all 6 months. I hope you can make it. I'm sincere when I say that. And if you don't, I'm sincere that when I say I'm probably gonna give you more than 10 days. So Mr. Hamby, what's gonna happen next is this. They're gonna let you get dressed. They're gonna bring you to the courthouse because that's where the probation office is at. Mr. Hamby, you'll meet with the probation officer. They'll go over everything with you. You'll be free to leave. Ma'am, are you gonna be able to pick him up this morning at the probation office? Usually it's 20 to 30 minutes before they get him here. Okay. Your fiance is gonna be able to pick you up in about a half hour. She'll be here waiting on you, Mr. Hamby, so you don't have to worry about transportation. Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Have a good day, sir. Just a second, Mr. McDaniel, to get that noted. Okay, that's it for friends and family in the courtroom. We have one individual here, Mr. McDaniel. We'll take him since we get through with our other first appearances in jail. The first case I have on the rest of the list is Demetrius Ward. This is an old one, though. Mr. Ward, good morning. Mr. Ward, you're here for first appearance. You've been accused of 3 charges. You've been accused of attempted burglary, of a conveyance, disorder, intoxication, and resisting an officer without violence. Mr. Ward, there is probable cause for those 3 charges. Mr. Ward, your criminal history is not great. You're not a conditional release candidate because of your criminal history, but the good news is it looks to me like you're entitled to a bond. Mr. Ward, I don't think you have any charges pending and you're not on probation. Is that right?
Yes, sir, I'm not.
I'm going to go ahead and set your bond. Mr. McDaniel, any input from the defense, sir?
No, Your Honor.
Gill from the state?
Judge, we're just asking for a reasonable bond that there's be no contact with the alleged victim or property and that he not possess or consume any alcohol while out on bond.
Mr. Ward, I'm gonna set you the standard bond I normally set for these charges. That attempted burglary of a conveyance,
It's a felony. Your
it's
Honor.
still a felony
Still-
charge, even though it's an attempt because of the burglary,
The
right?
level goes down to, I think, a level 3.
But the degree crime stays the same.
Correct, Your Honor.
So attempted burglary is going to be a $5,000 bond. The other two are misdemeanors. They're going to be a $2,500 bond each, but it's cash or surety. Mr. Ward, that's good. That's important because you don't have to come up with all $10,000. You can go through a bondsman. What a bondsman charges you is something that you negotiate with them. Usually it's around 10% of the bond, but they certainly may take less than that. Mr. Ward, the bond has a condition, no contact with the alleged victim. So have no contact with that alleged victim if and when you do the post bond. Mr. Ward, we'll get you the phone in just a few minutes to try to post the bond. Do you have any questions, sir?
No, sir.
Have a good day, Mr. Ward.
Judge, just one thing for housekeeping. I noticed that the probable cause affidavit said there was 2 counts of resisting officer without violence. It can only be 1. So I don't know if just for what he was arrested on, if it does come up, we're fine with an ROR on that.
The complaint shows 2 counts of resisting without violence.
Yeah, well, it says in the probable cause affidavit at the very bottom, 2 counts. And I don't know if that was what he was booked in on or anything, but
So the front page says 1 count. But yeah, I'm finding probable cause in 1 count. And I'm going to show that since it's not on the front page, that he's not even arrested for that second count.
perfect. Thank you, Judge.
It's just a typo, I think. Thank you for clarifying that. Next case we have is Anthony Burgess. Mr. Burgess, good morning. You're here because you've been accused of violating the terms of your probation. Mr. Burgess, the warrant issued in your case by the circuit judge has no bond on it. Yep,
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at it here. Mr. Burgess, I'm going to go ahead and get you arraigned this morning because I want to get you an attorney appointed. Listen to Mr. McDaniel. He's going to enter a plea for you and probably give you a court date. Mr. McDaniel?
Your Honor, we're going to plead of not guilty. He asked to set this in the August 8th pretrial docket, and I've already advised you, Mr. Green, to come by and visit him and talk to him about his case before that hearing.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. Mr. Burgess, any questions?
No, sir.
All right, he'll see you before your court date, sir.
Yes, sir.
Melissa Hood. Ms. Hood, good morning. Ms. Hood, you're here for first appearance accused of one count of retail theft. Ms. Hood, I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you. Mr. McDaniel, I didn't write down any notes on this. I don't know if I included it in my text or not. Where do we stand in this case, Mr. McDaniel?
Your Honor, at this point in time, I'm just going to ask for some kind of reasonable bond. There was an offer.
I
of 10
do,
days.
admit, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. McDaniel.
There was an offer. It was 10 days in jail, but she has something going on. that She says she needs to.
Yeah. It was a very small amount in value, but she has at least one prior retail theft. So just don't have much patience for that, I guess. Mr. Guild, anything from the state?
No, Judge, we're just asking that she not have any contact with Jackson County Walmart stores.
Ms. Hood, I'm going to set your bond at the standard $2,500 cash or surety bond, unless you prefer a cash bond, Mr. McDaniel.
Cash bond, Your Honor.
200, Mr. Gill,
No objection to that.
$250 cash bond. Then, Ms. Hood, no contact with any Walmart anywhere, ma'am, while this case is pending. You can't go to any
Okay.
Walmart at all because you're accused of
Okay,
stealing from
that's fine.
Walmart.
That's fine,
Ms.
that's
Hood,
fine.
Ms. Hood, you post that cash bond, you'll be released. The other thing we're going to do is, I don't want to take a chance on you not getting your notice or it not getting to you in time or having the wrong address. So I'm going to ask the jail to give you a notice for your court date. That will be when? July 31st at 9 a.m. Police Sergeant is when her notice needs to be for. Ms. Hood, you need to be in court that day. Do you have any questions, ma'am?
No, no, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a good day. We already saw Mr. Garvin. What did I set him? I gave him an RR on the checks.
750.
750 cash on the other two. Okay, so the next case would be
Connor Gramlin. Come on over, Connor.
Connor Gramling on page 3 of my list. Mr. Gramling, good morning. Mr. Gramling, you're here. As I explained to you this weekend, you're accused of violating the terms of your county probation. Mr. Gramling, I'm appointing the public defender's office to represent you, sir, and asking that you listen to Mr. McDaniel.
Your Honor, in case number 23132 MM, he's going to go ahead and admit that he violated his probation. Understanding he's going to be sentenced to 9 months in the county jail with Public Works, who have 16 days jail credit, and the remaining fine and costs be entered as judgment on the case. He'll work off Wayne's and trustee bail.
607 left. Sure.
Mr. McDaniel,
Yes, yes, sir.
I'd spoke to Mr. Ham this morning, and I think Mr. Ham had been in contact with Mr. Graham and did ask him to turn himself in, and I assume he did that. I'm not sure
Yes, sir.
about that.
He did.
His family, Mr. Ham spoke to his mother, aunt, grandfather. Mr. Grambling, failed a drug test significantly, but he had informed Mr. Ham that he would like to possibly have inpatient treatment last week. Now, I don't know if that's changed or not. Judge, I don't know if you would consider
Yes,
that,
sir.
but that's what Mr. Ham had said this morning.
Yes, sir. If that's a possibility.
That's in that text I sent out this morning, that I would consider inpatient drug treatment based on that drug test result. In fact, that's why I got the 9-month offer, was to make it long enough. It's okay. So, Mr. McDaniel, is that the plan, to look for a program for him, to get him to meet with the chaplain? Is that what we're going to do? Or is his
Yeah,
plan just to do
that's-
the jail time?
No, I guess I just realized that. So his plan is going to be to talk with chaplain. We can have you
Okay.
talk with him. And
Mr. Gill, is that agreeable with the state?
It is, Your Honor.
And Mr. Grambling, is that the plea you would like to enter, or admission you'd like to enter on this violation of probation charge?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Grambling, I'm going to accept your admission that you violated the terms and conditions of your supervision. And that's in case number 23132 MM. Mr. Grambling, I'm going to provoke your supervision. I'm going to sentence you to 9 months in the county jail. Recommend you for the Public Works Program, impose the remaining court costs and fines of $607. But, Mr. Grambling, your history is not that bad at all, really. So, and based upon your analysis result, it appears you might benefit from inpatient drug treatment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the jail to let Chaplain Pippin meet with you. He's not out there every day, but he's out there usually several times a week. So Chaplain Pippin will be meeting with you. He'll be talking to you about different programs we have access to. If one of them is something that you think you would be interested in going to, given your age, your circumstances, and the drug test, I certainly am not necessarily opposed to giving you a shot at inpatient drug treatment somewhere. What will happen, Mr. Grambling, is if you find a program that you want to go to, then they'll put you back on the first appearance list. We'll work out the details of who's going to take you, which program, when you're going to go. We'll put all that on the record, and then you would go to the program. It's possible you'll be at a program later this week. It's also possible it'll be next week, but you'll be at a program pretty soon if you find one that you want to go to. Mr. Goodson?
Just for record keeping purposes, Mr. Grambling was on probation for a battery and an assault. He was on for 11 months, 29 days on the battery, and 6 months on the assault. So I'm assuming it'll be 9 months in jail on the battery and 60 days on the assault.
I thought he'd finished the assault probation, did he not? I just kind of assumed that. He may not have.
I don't see where a termination order was filed, but I'll confirm that.
Look at the dates on there, the date of the sentence versus the date of the violation. That will tell us if it was more than 6 months.
Yeah, we got put on probation
In March.
in March, and he
So
was
it
6 months, so it wouldn't terminate.
It
till-
hadn't been 6 months.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, with 60 days jail sentence, that's the most you can get on the misdemeanor, on the second degree misdemeanor. You get the full year on the other one. So it's actually, it's going to be 60-day sentence, just to clarify, Mr. Jailer, 60 days on the assault, 9 months on the other case. Mr. Grambling, it doesn't change anything about what we're trying to accomplish here, which is get you help if you agree that you need it. Mr. Grambling, I hope to see you at first appearance the next few days. Any questions?
No, sir.
Have a good day, sir. Thank you, Mr. Goodson. Randy Southwell. You got that warrant here. Mr. Southwell, give me just a second to get this. Mr. Southwell, good morning. You were arrested this weekend charged with the offense of criminal mischief over $200. Mr. Southwell, there's also was an allegation made that you were consuming alcohol when you knew arrest. This morning, I signed a violation of probation warrant. So the first thing we got to do is get that warrant out of the system. I don't want you to get this matter resolved and get arrested months from now on an old warrant that was never served. So I'm going to ask Sergeant Applewhite with the Sheriff's Department to go ahead and serve this warrant by video. So this is a violation of county probation warrant that I told you about this weekend that was going to be coming. Sergeant.
Good morning. This is Sergeant Gary Applewhite, Jackson County Sheriff's Office. Are you Randy Southwell?
Yep.
All right. Is your date of birth September 8th of 1962?
Affirmative.
Thank you, Mr. Southwell. In my hand, I have a copy of a warrant, as Judge Mercer mentioned earlier, that was signed and issued this morning for your arrest on violation of county probation. This warrant has now been served to you. A copy will be provided to you sometime today.
Thank you, Sergeant. So they'll get a copy of that out there to you, Mr. Southwell. I'm going to appoint Mr. McDaniel's office to represent you. Listen to Mr. McDaniel, and we're going to see where we stand in your charges.
Your Honor, in case number 22641 CT, he's going to immediately violate his probation, and he's going to also plead no contest to the new charge of the criminal mischief. The understanding in both cases are concurrent. He'll have 90 days in county jail with Public Works. We'll reserve restitution on any restitution that may be owed. There'll be a $370 fine on the new charge. Whatever is owed on the old case, the violation of county probation will become part of the order. He'll have 3 days jail credit total. He actually has 5 days in the DUI, but for simplicity, I'm just put 3 days jail credit since they're both going to be running concurrent. And that will resolve these cases, Your Honor.
You may have said it. I just may not have written it down. Is there a Public Works recommendation, Mr. McDaniel?
There is a Public Works recommendation, Your Honor.
And I believe Mr. Goodson, Mr. Southwell, Mr. Goodson told me this morning that you actually got all your fines paid off. You were doing good on probation until this little
Yes, sir.
hiccup. Mr. Gill, is that agreeable with the state?
It is, Your Honor.
Mr. Southwell, do you have any questions about that agreement?
No, really. Thank
Mr. Southwell, is that what you want to do to resolve these cases? Is that what you want to do, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Southwell, I'm going to accept your plea of no contest in both the criminal mischief over $200 and your admission that you violated the terms of your probation in case number 22641 CT. Mr. Southwell, I'm going to revoke that probation, sentence you to 90 days in jail in the DUI case. In the new case, I'm going to judge you guilty, accept that plea, and judge you guilty of the criminal mischief, sentence you to 90 days in that case. You've got a total of 90 days. They're running at the same time. That's one sentence, Mr. Southwell. You've got credit for 3 days. You've already served $370 court costs and fines in the new case. You've already paid the court costs and fines in the other case. Mr. Southwell, this last part's important. I'm recommending you for the Public Works Trustee Program. It's all important. The last part's very important to you because that trustee program can cut that sentence down from 87 days that you have left to about half that. Hopefully, that's what's going to happen if you follow the jail rules and work at the jail. I have to reserve jurisdiction on restitution. The incident from the weekend, allegedly there's some restitution owed to a relative in that case. We'll see. Reserve jurisdiction for 60 days on restitution. Mr. Southwell, there's no more probation, sir. You finish this jail sentence. Hopefully get you some gain time and get out and move on with your life. Mr. Southwell, do you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
Have a good day, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. Mr. McDaniel, I believe I got a text, or we got a text that Adrian Warren was just going to try to postpone. Is that right?
Correct, Your Honor.
That brings us to Javarius McGriff. Mr. McGriff. Good morning, sir. Mr. McGriff, you were held because you had something going on in Bay County when you had local charges here. I looked this morning and I do not see anything filed in the Bay County case. Mr. Gill, are you aware of anything filed in Bay County?
I'm not, Your Honor.
Mr. McGriff, I'm going to release that hold for Bay County. We've held you 10 days. They don't have a warrant. Mr. McGriff, that does not mean that they can't get a warrant. They may have a warrant sitting on someone's desk that gets signed today for all I know. I have no idea. But what I do know is there's nothing in the system showing that they have a warrant now or even have applied for one. So since that's the case, I'm going to release that hold on you. If you post bond here, remember the conditions that were set on your bond. Mr. McGriff, do you have any questions?
Sir.
All right, sir. I wish you the best. That brings us to Aiden Santana Hernandez. Mr. Santana Hernandez, good morning, sir. Your case was similar to Mr. McGriff. I held you for Gadsden County because you had just been sentenced to probation there. I checked the statewide system this morning. It does not look to me like they have even filed a violation of probation. Mr. Gill, you know anything else about this one?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Santana Hernandez, I'm going to release that hold. Here's the problem. Just because a lot of judges give them a 10-day limit or a 7-day limit, some do even 14. Even though judges give them a limit, Florida statutes give them a much longer, Florida case law gives them a much longer time to file a violation. They may file a violation next week and get a warrant. So if I were you, I'd be contacting my probation officer, or my friends or family contacting my probation officer to see if there's a warrant coming. There's not a whole lot of purpose of posting a bond if they're going to pick you up the next day and put you in jail in Gadsden County. So you have the right to post bond. Whether you do or not is up to you, but I'm going to release that violation of probation hold. Mr. Santana Hernandez, his new charge was a criminal traffic or misdemeanor. Is that right, Mr. McDaniel?
Correct.
Okay. The other thing we're going to do is I'm going to ask the jail to give you a notice for your court date. That way, if you post bond, we will know when your court date's going to be.
You know, it's August 1st, and I think he's already got a copy of it, but
Yes, sir.
August 1st.
On August 1st. Okay, so if you post bond, you've already got your notice for your court date. Any questions, sir?
No, sir.
Have a good day, sir.
Right there.
That must be there. Next case is Kevin Pittman. Mr. Pittman, good morning. You're here on the first appearance list. Mr. McDaniel has added you on the docket to try to see if we can get your case resolved. Please listen to your attorney, Mr. McDaniel.
Your Honor, I spoke with Mr. Pittman in 23463 MM. He's going to plea of no contest to the charges as listed. Understanding that he'll be sentenced to 60 days in the county jail with public works, be a $722 fine. There'll be 22 days jail credit. He'll be adjudicated guilty, and this will resolve this case.
Mr. Gill, is that agreeable with the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
All three counts, right, Mr. McDaniel?
Correct.
And Mr. Pittman, did you hear that agreement?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Pittman, do you have any questions about that agreement?
No, sir.
And Mr. Pittman, is that the plea that you would like to enter?
Yes, sir.
He's already signed the waiver of rights form, Mr. McDaniel.
He has, Your Honor.
Mr. Pittman, I'm going to accept your plea of no contest to the charge of resisting an officer without violence, assault on a law enforcement officer, and misuse of 911. I'm going to adjudicate you guilty of those three offenses, sentence you to 60 days in jail. But Mr. Pittman, you already have credit for 22 days you've already served. So you've got credit for 22 days. I'm recommending you for the Public Works Trustee Program on the remaining portion of your sentence, and I've got to impose a standard court costs and fines of $722 on the assault. I'm going to waive the court costs and fines on the other two cases. Mr. Pittman, that means you have at most, that would be 38 days left at most. You may or may not get some gain time off that extra time you have left. Hopefully you'll get you some gain time and get out early. Mr. Pittman, no probation is involved in this sentence. Mr. Pittman, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Wish you the best, sir.
Okay.
Last case at the jail, I believe, is Rachel Thomas. Ms. Thomas, good morning. Ms. Thomas, you're here for first appearance as an add-on to try to see if we can get your local charges resolved. I'm going to appoint the public defender's office to represent you, Ms. Thomas, and ask that you listen to your attorney, Mr. McDaniel.
Your Honor, in case number 23451 CT, she's going to plea of no contest to the charges listed. The understanding that she'll be sentenced to 60 days in the county jail with public works. She'll have $1,078 in fines, 23 days jail credit. She'll be adjudicated guilty. She has signed plea waiver form, waiver about jury trial and call witnesses.
Thank you. And Mr. Gill, is that agreeable with the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Thomas, did you hear that agreement?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions about that agreement?
No, sir.
Ms. Thomas, is that the plea you would like to enter to resolve this case, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
All right, Ms. Thomas, I'm going to accept your plea of no contest to the charge of DUI in case 23-451 CT. I'm going to adjudicate you guilty of that offense. Ms. Thomas, I'm sentencing you to 60 days in jail, but you have credit for 23 days, ma'am. And I am recommending you for the Public Works Trustee portion on the balance, Public Works Trustee status on the balance of your sentence. $1,078 court costs and fines are imposed. That's a state and county set fine for those charges, for that charge. Ms. Thomas, let me see if Sergeant, as far as you know, does she still have the holdout of Bay County?
Yes, sir. Bay County does. The Coffee
So
County
this-
release.
I couldn't hear the last part again, Sergeant.
The Coffee County hold was released, but she still does have the Bay County.
So thank you. So Ms. Thomas, when Bay County learns that you have pled to DUI here, that may or may not change the status of their hold. And if they decide that you've been punished, because it was all one day and one time, just allegedly traveled into 2 different counties. Is that right, Mr. McDaniel?
That is correct.
So, Ms. Thomas, I don't want you sitting here for a long period of time waiting on Bay County. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Mr. McDaniel someone in his office to notify Bay County that you resolved case here, that you were sentenced to 60 days in jail, and that may or may not affect their charging decision there. When she gets down to about 10 days, Sergeant, please notify Bay County that she can be picked up. If she's not picked up within that 10 days before she finishes her sentence, I need her brought back to first appearance, because I don't want her sitting here for several weeks if they're not going to go forward with the case. Ms. Thomas, I don't know if they will or not, but it's certainly possible, ma'am. They will see your sentence here and they'll be satisfied with that. That'll be their decision. But if you're still here the day you finish your sentence, I'll see you at first appearance. Ms. Thomas, do you have any questions?
No, sir.
All right, ma'am. Wish you the best.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. McDaniel, that's everything I had on my list at the jail. I know we've got Mr.